How to build low back fitness is the topic of today's tutorial. We're going to be focusing on one exercise in particular. So we're going to go through, first of all, how to perform it, make sure the right muscles are working at the right time. Then we're going to start adding some movement to it. Then we're going to start adding some weight to it. If you want to build your low back fitness, please do click the link below, go through to my How to Build Low Back Strength Endurance 12-week online program where you can get started today. The exercise we're going to be using to build our low back fitness, or one of the exercises you can use, and it features in the 12-week program that you can click through below, and it's the single leg RDL. Now, as I mentioned, we're just going to go through the teaching points to start with, so we're going to do it in its static position. So what we do with the single leg RDL, certainly in this part one with the static position, is we're then going to lift this leg, we're going to hinge back. So we've got, essentially, now we've got our RDL position, but we're up on one leg. Now, this leg is just as important as the standing leg. Obviously, the standing leg, the hip's going to be working, the hamstring's going to be working. The glute minimus, glute medius is going to be working to stabilize the joint. The hamstring and the glute max, or the glute max is going to be the primary mover, with the hamstring as the secondary mover. So with regards to the movement that we would do, which is coming later, it's this. What we want to get first is we want to get all the muscles working, because when a lot of people do it, all they focus on is this hip muscle back and forwards. And sometimes they just focus on getting the hip back and forwards, which doesn't mean the muscle's doing as much as it can. So what we want to be able to do is get first of all, these muscles going, but we want to get many more going. So we're going to focus on the many more to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to first of all come into this position. And now we're going to focus on this leg that's back. And what we want is we want the heel up, because that's going to engage this glute over here. We then want the knee locked out, because then we've got the quad nice and tight. And then the toes up, so we've got the lower leg nice and tight. That then helps stabilize the pelvis, stabilize the torso, so we've got that nice smooth movement, but good tension within it. What we're then going to do is we're now going to focus on the upper body. So if we come into, again, this side, we come in, we just hold here, we've got this position, we're holding it, and then we want the shoulders to come down, and there's going to be a reason for this in a second. So we would just hold that position. So to start with, it's just a static hold. So what we've now got, how we build low back fitness, is not just doing back extensions and building the muscles of the lower back. We need to build the muscles around it, which is the glutes, which is the hamstrings, which is the lats. And we can do that by getting into these positions. So it's not just about performing the exercise or performing the movement of the exercise. It's about performing the exercise correctly and the movement correctly with all the correct muscles being engaged. So just to start with, again, this is how I progress it in the 12-week program, is we just start off nice and static. So I've got my abs tight, my shoulders down, I've got my legs straight, toes are up, heels up, so I've got engaging the glute, and then we just hold. So we hold that position. We're also, you'll feel it, you've got the lower back muscles working. But once we've got the whole system working, that's how we get good low back fitness. So step number one is to start static and get all of these muscles engaged at the right time. Part two is adding movement to the exercise. Now, I've sort of showed that before, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more specifically, because before it was just about getting all the muscles engaged. So what we do is we come into the position, like so, and now we're talking about the movement, which is hip forward. Again, squeeze the glute at the top. It doesn't have to be a full clench, but because we've got this one pre-engaged, we can then get this one to get involved as well. Hip back, tip the body forward. When we tip the body forward, we keep the chest up. Again, you may feel tightness going down the hamstring, depending on how tight your hamstrings are. We don't need to go through excessive ranges of movement. It's just a hip back and a hip forward. So what's happening is this shin, or this knee, I should say the shin is vertical and the knee doesn't come forward. So it's just that movement. Now, when we put that movement together with all that muscle tension, it becomes, or it can become, a much more powerful movement. So it's here and it's here. Now what we've started to get, both glutes going, we've got the quad, we've got the lats, so put your hands on your hips, we've got the lats, we've got the tummy, so on and so forth. So we can start to make it into a little bit more of a powerful movement. But again, what it's doing, we've got underneath the lower back is engaged, we've got above the lower back is engaged, which is all pulling tension through the thoracolumbar fascia, which is supporting the low back muscles, so they can do their job, which is just essentially hold the vertebrae in place, and then all the rest of it is giving it the strength that we need. Part 3 is then adding weight to this movement. So we've got here, we've got the muscles engaged. Now what we can then do is we can enhance how much these muscles engage, or certainly the upper body. So if I just grab this light kettlebell, now again, I would always recommend starting light and then you can move into making it heavier. I've got one here. I'm going to explain why it's in one hand and why I would put it in the other hand, and then you can make the understanding that you can then use 2 as well. But we're going to start with 1. So if I come into this position, now what's going to happen is I'm going to drop this weight into the position where the leg would be. So I've got all the other stuff that I've talked about. I've got the glutes engaged, I've got the hip moving back and forward, I've got the shin vertical, I've got the chest up, I've got the hamstring and the glutes on this leg, the quads on this leg. So it's all working. So we're doing what we've done previously. So what then is happening is when I come into this position, in fact, let me turn around. When I come into this position and I hold this weight back, I'm now engaging my lats a lot more. If it's out here, the lats will be disengaged. But if I bring it in here, it's now engaged. And then I can come up. So what I'm now doing is I'm enhancing the contraction of the lat on this side and the glute on this side. So it's going across the thoracolumbar fascia diagonally, creating that tension. So what I can then do is I can then do the opposite. So if I come into this hand, which is now on the same side, I'm now getting the I'm engaging the lats on this left hand side and the glute on this right hand side. So again, we're getting, that added muscle engagement, added muscle tension for improved low back fitness. Which then leads me to the third and sort of final part to it, is if I had 2 weights, so 2 kettlebells or 2 dumbbells or whatever it might be. I would hold them in both hands, and again, all the muscle tension, again, keeping the weight back here so my lats are engaged, and then coming forward. Coming back here, coming forward. Coming back here, coming forward. Again, everything that we've talked about, hips back, hips forward, shin vertical, chest up, muscles engaged, shoulder blades down, all that kind of stuff. So everything that we've talked about, and then we just enhance it with some weight. Now again, you would be choosing the weight that you would use depending on how strong you are, how much experience you have, how good your balance is, so on and so forth. So there's all of that goes into it, but this is essentially one exercise that can help build your low back fitness. If you like this content, please do hit the like button below. If you've learned something new, hit the thanks button. If you want to watch more videos like this, hit the subscribe and the bell icon. If you have a comment or a question, please do leave it down below. And don't forget to click the link below and go through to the How to Build Low Back Strength Endurance 12-week online program.